Those are the new folders that we bought. We don't have the closed ones anymore.
Do we have a manila we can put that in?
Good.
No problem.
Marathon over, that's always good. Get the marathon over.
The November 19th, 2018 agenda meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call roll?
Council President Dixon?
Here.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilwoman Kerber? Absent. Councilman Ligotti?
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer? Here. Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 present.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting of the Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official Borough newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on February 20th, 2018. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Thank you. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by a salute to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Items for discussion, miscellaneous engineering items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few items tonight to update the mayor and council as to where things are with regard to various engineering items. First, on where our things list, the electrical substation, remember, was authorized by change order to be removed. This is the former building. We have met with the contractor, received DEP approval of your resolution to award and indication that they will finance the project. We've met with the contractor and work is to be started this week. First on the list would be electrical disconnects and sampling of the oil inside the transformer. So with that, you'll start to see something happening probably after the holiday. Obviously, we don't want to start doing demolition until after the holiday. So you will see some movement on that very soon. Wilson Avenue phases 1 and 2, as you may remember, you have added to that project the handicap ramps in and around the project. There's a couple of minor punch list items that have to be done, but that project is just about cleaned up. The next phases, I think that I just want to go through quickly with you. You may remember we did get authorized to advertise for bids. We sent the plans and the specifications to the DOT for review and approval. They did come up with a little bit of a hurdle, which they were concerned about the amount of work that was being done on Janet because of the work of the storm sewer. They originally indicated they may not participate in that part of the project. We objected and proved to them that it was included all along, and we received verbal today. I'm happy to advise where it is all going to be funded by the Transportation Trust Fund Act. So basically that they're saying, well, what's the work on Janet Court? Well, that's part of the storm sewer. We had the sidewalk and curb and some of the asphalt repairs on there. So that's all back together. With that, today we are going to discuss quickly with you. There is an existing easement, and since all the borings have tested positively, what we would like to do is to roll the storm sewer pipe into an existing utility easement that's there already between Wilson and Janet. That would alleviate the need to get easements and allow us to go to construction, to go construction very soon. So once we discuss it with the borough attorney, as long as there's no legal aspects to hold that up, what we would suggest we do is advertise for bids. Hopefully by next month we'll be able to give you a recommendation award. Okay?
Sounds great. Any questions for the engineer for any of those items?
Continuing on, as you may remember, we did get a request in regarding the force main location. This is the sanitary force main which goes from Milltown to ultimately to New Brunswick. There's a line that basically runs parallel to Milltown Road, and we utilized ground penetrating radar to get some locations. We were able to get portions of it and sent that information to the engineer handling the project or DOT. We believe they're looking at the bridge which goes over the highway there. And gave them a rough idea of where we thought the line was, and they're going to proceed from there, whether it's test bits or additional investigations. They even indicate they may take their test bits on the other side of the highway, which would solve our problem. So just to keep an idea, keep you updated as to where that is. There's a Water Quality Accountability Act that is out there, and we did send you folks some information on it. Basically, that is something that we're going to ultimately have to deal with. There's a list of requirements that many of the towns fall under, including Milltown. John Eckert has a copy of this. It's nothing that we're calling here tonight that has to be dealt with today, but at some point I want you to know about it, and we'll be talking about it in the next several months because of the fact that it's issues that we will not ultimately be able to ignore. So it's something that is going to have to be pushed through. Lead and Copper continues to work with the state. We are happy to report that there's a change in the process with regard to financing services, and we've had a conversation with DEP, and there's going to be a meeting scheduled with our office, represented from the borough and the DEP, to discuss it further. So we're getting good information on that. That's all we have for tonight, other than to give you the progress on the project for the construction of the public works site. The walls are just about complete. We're probably not going to do the wall that is along the entrance road probably till springtime right now, because the contractor's got issues, and we're trying to work out some issues with the property over there. But in the meantime, the contractor has access, so he should have access all winter long. We've discussed this with him. He'll be able to go through and work around that issue, so there should be no issue there while the property issues and those get worked out. The walls, as I said, are just about done. There's some soil that's been deposited in the center of the site that's being removed as we speak. And the project's gone on well. Next item really is for the building to commence.
Great. Any questions for the engineer?
I have one. So if you could just elaborate on some of the items for the Water Accountability Act that we'll have to undertake that pose something of a problem for us?
Yeah, one of the things is valve exercising. And, you know, Milltown is not a very large borough, but when you take a look at 3 valves or 2 valves at every intersection, you're talking about an awful lot of valves. And manpower is very difficult. Many of the towns, you're not the only one in this boat. It's an onerous requirement. I can't say that it's not a smart thing. You yourselves have indicated that you wanted to have your valves repaired that were not in good repair. But it is a very difficult thing, and these are one of these requirements that don't come with financing with regard to labor and things like that. So that's the most notable one. The other things are mostly record keeping. You've gone ahead and had the foresight to have your mapping done on GIS for your water system. You've got a very good water system map, which is tied to GIS with valves shown on an approximate location of the water line, your sizes. So you're ahead in that regard, which some towns are not. But this exercise in hydrants, checking hydrants, it really becomes, it's a next level in terms of operating it. Years ago, the state did not have much in the way of jurisdiction over this. Over the years, they've taken more and more. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing, but now basically it's become a requirement. And that's what happens with these water regs. They become more and more stringent as time goes on. So it's something that as you plan your budgets as going forward, you're going to have to really come to grips with these requirements.
I remember we had a discussion with our utility director several months ago. He was looking at the procurement of a device that could be used to vac out the valve boxes as well as operate those, somewhere to the tune of $80,000 for this piece of equipment, which would still require guys to go around and operate the valves. And I think it's twice a year. Every valve has to be operated twice a year, and then if you find something that's not working, you'd immediately have to replace it. We looked at outsourcing it. The cost is about the same for a recurring $80,000, but to do it in-house would also take 2 guys about a month to do just that. So I know we're very short-handed in the utility department. This is something that keeps rearing its head as the state, brings down more issues for us to tackle. It's harder and harder for us as a small department to maintain those.
I'd like to think that you're not the only one in this position, by the way, that there's going to be some reasonableness ultimately decided upon. Most towns do not exercise their valves every year, and they've gone along very good for a very long time. So I think that there's going to be some lessening, some more reasonableness in this, but certainly the larger water systems where they have 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people, they're going to be required to go through and deal with those types of things. But the smaller systems, it's an onerous requirement, in my opinion.
Any other questions for the engineer? Seeing none? Is that it, Mike?
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. We'll close items for discussion. Audience comments? Please use the microphone in the center of the room, name and address. Remember, we will limit you to discussing things that were discussed in the agenda meeting. With that, I'll open up audience comments. Seeing none, close audience comments. I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
So be it.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Ligotti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll adjourn for about 5 minutes and get ready for the regular meeting. Good evening. The November 19th, 2018 meeting of the Milltown Borough Council will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Present.
Councilman Farkas?
Here.
Councilwoman Kerber? Councilman Legati?
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Here.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 present.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the meeting statement?
Let the minutes reflect the adequate notice of the holding of this regular business meeting. The Borough Council was provided by the adoption of a resolution and the posting, filing, and forwarding of a copy of the same to the official newspapers, Home News Tribune, and Star Ledger Publishing Companies on February 20th, 2018. Public participation in this meeting will be permitted during public hearings and after the agenda of scheduled matters has been completed.
Thank you. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed by a salute to our nation's flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Okay, next on our agenda is a proclamation. And this evening, we have a proclamation for a gentleman in town that I cannot say enough good things about, Mr. Joseph Pietanza. Joe and his wife have been servants of our community for a long time, and unfortunately, this is like, it's a little thing that we're going to do to thank Joe, but words can't say enough. With that, I'd like to ask some of the council to come up, and Mr. Pietanza, please meet me in the middle of the room. Come on over here, Joe, if you would. At this time, I will make the following mayoral proclamation. Commemorating the service of Joseph Pietanza. Whereas the Borough of Milltown Mayor and Council would like to recognize Joseph Pietanza for his hard work and dedication as a volunteer for the Milltown website. And whereas Joseph Pietanza has been married to his wife Barbara for 34 years, and they have taken pride in raising their children, Gabriella and Anthony, who is engaged to Caitlin, here in Milltown. And whereas Mr. Pietanza has taken great pride in being a resident of Milltown and raising his family in this town. Mr. Pietanza has been an active volunteer in the borough and has made significant strides to make sure Milltown has a positive representation. And whereas in January 2010, Mr. Pietanza volunteered to manage and maintain the Milltown Borough website. Mr. Pietanza has dedicated substantial time and efforts to provide a website that notified residents of community events, municipal activities, and legal notifications of the borough. Mr. Pietanza worked diligently to ensure the product presented was the best representation of Milltown. And whereas Mr. Pietanza was integral in the implementation of Nixle notifications and added additional benefit and transparency to the residents of Milltown with his efforts. And whereas the only way to do great work is to do what you love. It is very clear that Mr. Pietanza has immense love for Milltown and its community, and it shows with every moment of the 8 years Mr. Pietanza served as a volunteer for Milltown and his work on the municipal website. Now therefore I, Eric A. Stieber, Mayor of the Borough of Milltown, do hereby honor Joseph Pietanza and thank him for all the hard work and service to the community throughout the years and urge all of our residents to join me in our heartfelt thanks and congratulations. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the Borough of Milltown to be affixed this 19th day of November 2018. Joseph, thank you so much for everything you've done. Congratulations, sir. Would you like to say a few words? Please.
this is going to be very short, but for me, it was always about informing the residents, keeping them in the loop, and residents and businesses. And I'm happy that Milltown has a new website, but in a website's all well and good, but I think today municipalities and organizations need to reach out to people. People have to go to a website. If you can reach out and utilize Nixle, I think that is a very valuable tool that every municipality should use to the best of their ability. And it was an honor to serve as Milltown's webmaster, if you want to call me that. But it was time that the technology in 2003, which the Milltown website was on, was no longer viable. So congratulations to Trina, Gabriella,
Thank you.
Nick, for putting a new website out there, and I know it's going to serve the residents and businesses of Milltown very well for years to come. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you for all of your help. Next meeting, make sure people, tell people how to do it.
Now, there's no way to top that, but we'll continue on. Okay. Next on the agenda is comments from audience on resolutions and bills and claims. Okay, listed on the agenda, we have the audience comments, bills and claims. If you have any comments or questions, please use the microphone in the center of the room. Give your name and address for the record when recognized. Remember, comments and questions are limited to the resolutions and bills and claims listed on this evening's agenda. With that, I'll open audience comments.
Phil Zambrana, 40 Van Loo Avenue. I'm just looking for a little bit more clarification and information on Resolution 18285.
Best practices.
On the inside now?
Absolutely.
Yes, this is a best practices checklist, if you will, that is given to the by the state to every municipality in the state of New Jersey. For each municipality, fill out and return to the Division of Local Government Services. If you fail to fill it out and return it, you lose 5% of your state aid. The requirements are that the governing body of each municipality review it and pass a resolution that they have reviewed.
Is that it? Okay, so the inventory part, so what exactly is the inventory part of that resolution?
It is 65 different questions.
Okay.
That range in all different aspects of municipal functions.
Okay, is that something that would be at some point posted on the website? Sure. What those 65 questions are?
We could post the actual best practices on the website.
Is that before a meeting or is that after the meeting?
Well, it can't be before the meeting.
Okay, so you'll be posting this after the meeting?
Right.
Okay. Was there a deadline for this submission? Because I kind of remember this
Yes,
like last year coming up.
It was last week, I think last week. It was the November 12th. Although it was confusing by the state because they said Tuesday, November 12th, and the November 12th was actually a Monday, which was a Veterans Day, but we filed it on time. The state got the best practices out very late. They got them out at the last half of October and added 30 questions to it. So we had to work quickly in getting all those questions answered and back to the state. They acknowledged that the governing bodies won't be able to review this before it gets filed to the state.
Okay, so if I understand this correctly, it was 30 questions, and then they added another 30 to make it 60?
About in those ballparks, yeah.
In that ballpark. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public portion. Next on the agenda is bills and claims. Will the clerk please read Resolution 18-281 by title, please?
Authorizing the payment of bills, claims, and statements against the Borough of Milltown in the total amount of $2,836,449.66.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Revelinsky, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. In getting the bills and claims in advance, I had a very, very brief discussion with our CFO/BA. It's a little confusing there's sections in here that are clothing allowance for our volunteer fire department. This is a budgeted item every year, and it's not exceeding anything, but it's not exactly a clothing allowance. I'm sure it's fine, but I think that this is something that we should look at next year when it gets budgeted, that it isn't put down as a clothing allowance, that maybe the BA or the CFO can really be more specific on what kind of an allowance it is. Putting in it as a clothing allowance probably isn't the most stringent thing to do, so it's just that if anybody looks at this, you know, they want an explanation, you know, I don't want anybody to be, you know, upset that it's over and beyond the budget that's adopted for the year. It is not. It's included in the budget. Don't want anybody to get confused. It's something that is done every year. All I'm saying is I think that we may need to redirect its description when it comes in bills and claims. That was it.
What does it entail?
I have no idea.
Historically, when I was a fireman, there was an allowance for clothing that would get destroyed in the time of your service. When you go to a fire scene and you perspirate in your clothing, a lot of times it gets destroyed. You get covered with smoke, whatever kind of residues that might on you.
I understand that.
And that's what that was for.
Yes, but it's based on years of service. So does a shirt that you buy cost more than a shirt that I bought because you have more years?
Well,
That's
I'm
why
just
it's a
saying,
little-
when I had it, it was a lump, it was a sum, and that was it.
Yeah, these are all different sums throughout. That's why it threw a red flag to me.
Right.
I think it's something that we could look at next year. It's nothing we should look at now, but it's something next year we should just try and maybe, you know, be a little bit more specific on.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Could it be because of something like work boots where, you know, they last you a year or two and then you figure after 4 years someone should start getting, you know, reimbursed for boots or
That would be justified if you gave a receipt, but this is just they're just giving out money. There's no receipts involved, they're not replacing it with receipts for boots or clothes or anything. It's just a lump sum based on your years of service.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. On page 7 of the bills and claims, there's a charge for Easy Auto Glass for window replacement at the American Legion for $1,200. Could I get an explanation what that is?
Yes, our Public Works, while working in the park by the American Legion, we threw a rock through the window, and we replaced the window, and we're submitting it to our insurance company.
Okay, what park is by the American? There's no park by the American Legion.
No, they were actually in the street. They were in the
doing a street.
Along the
curb,
sidewalk area there,
Weed whacking.
Weed whacking and stuff, yeah.
That area, so.
And just out of curiosity, what window costs $1,200? That's kind of.
one of the front windows. It's what we
One
went
of
by.
one of the big plate glass windows in the front? Is that?
Yeah, the big one.
Oh, I asked that question, and we will be submitting for insurance purposes as
Yes.
well to recoup some of that money?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Okay, next we have reports of standing committees and introduction of resolutions. A consent resolution has been prepared to cover the 5 resolutions listed on this evening's agenda. If any member of the council would like any of them acted upon individually, please give me the number of the resolution and it will be pulled from the consent resolution.
Mr. Mayor, 18287.
And 18285.
Any others?
Yeah, 18284 while we're at it.
Okay, so the consent resolution will cover all those resolutions except things numbers 18 to 84, 85, and 87. With that, will the clerk please read the consent?
Whereas pursuant to the rules of council, the council may establish a consent agenda for any regular or special meeting, and whereas the Borough Clerk has posted a consent agenda for this meeting, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, that the consent agenda previously prepared by the Borough Clerk be approved without the necessity of having individual resolutions read by the Borough Clerk.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Make a motion that this resolution be adopted?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Legati, seconded by Council President Dixon, that the resolution is adopted. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read Resolution 18-284 by title, please?
Resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown authorizing cancellation of 2018 tax utility debit and credit balances of less than $5.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
I move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Revelinsky, seconded by Councilman Legati, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the only reason I wanted to pull this is just to kind of highlight it to the residents. What we're doing here is waiving. If you've got less than $5 owed to the borough, this happens for a myriad of reasons, one of which could be you showed up a day late and you've accrued 25 cents interest. That accrues over the course of the year. We know you paid your bill on time. It's a de minimis amount. We can't just wipe it off the books, without any sort of resolution, but at the end of the year, we like to settle up with residents and let them know that, we're not here to hound them over $1.25. It costs more money to do that than what we would collect. So this is just to remove any credits or debits still owed to the borough of less than $5, and typically they're from interest purposes. So.
Anyone else? Will the clerk please call roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read Resolution 18-285 by title, please?
Resolution acknowledging discussion of best practice inventory and authorizing submission of public meeting certification.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Make a
Move
motion that this
be
resolution.
adopted.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Legati. Is there any discussion?
So I had a quick question about this. I had asked the clerk about this earlier, but afterward, when I was looking through, my question was the few answers that are no on the best practice that are perhaps easily addressed with a policy. Is there some reason that we don't have a policy, or is this going to have to be addressed going forward? I mean, there was one of them, has your municipality adopted a written policy, vehicle use policy prohibiting personal use of municipal vehicles except for commuting? and the answer was no. So, I mean, is it something as simple as we have to pass a policy?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of these are as simple as that. Some of these you're not gonna do because the practicality is not there.
Right, there's
one
about.
of them, I don't think you're gonna hire a full-time planner.
Correct.
It just doesn't make sense.
No, I sort of circled the ones that are
Yeah.
fairly simple fixes. So I guess, have we ever looked at these best practices before and addressed what was no and what was the reason that we still have no's on some of these?
I could say every year that we have to fill this out, and I can remember every year at the council meeting, we've passed it.
And I will say this, that some of these questions are the same. A lot of them were changed.
Okay.
So each year, it's in the view of somebody down at the state or some group of people, what are the best practices for municipalities? I can tell you, I know for a fact, that the governor's office played a large part in this year,
So
just by some of the questions, you could tell.
Okay.
They ask for, if you're gonna follow a bill that was introduced when it becomes law. How can you say yes to that if you don't know what it is?
Right.
So we said that we would look at it prospective. Once it gets passed, we'll take a look at it and see if it makes sense for the Borough of Milltown. So, while I may not agree that all these are best practices, the state looks at this as a guidance manual, if you will, for towns.
Okay. But if there are some things like that, I mean, so we could address that going forward, because if
We certainly
somebody
can
took
address
one of our
several of these.
cars and was
Yep.
driving to, I don't know, Pennsylvania.
Right.
We would, and they'd say, do you have a policy against it? No.
Right, now, just to let you know, the police have that in the rules and regulations of the department. But as an overall, in our policy, personnel policy, or in our ordinances, it isn't addressed. So we need to address it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Will the clerk call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilman Mayor?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Will the clerk please read Resolution 18-287 by title, please?
A resolution of the Borough Council of the Borough of Milltown awarding Rich Tree Service the tree removal and pruning contract A and contract B in an amount not to exceed $155,000.
Okay, you've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move that this resolution be adopted.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Legati, that the resolution is adopted. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Curious, simply because I haven't seen this, and I know everyone was at the league last week, so there's been a little bit of disconnect with the borough. How did the numbers come in by going out to bid with Rich's Tree Service compared to some of the state contracts and what we anticipated doing it ourselves?
Rich's Tree Service is the state contracted vendor, and they are the only ones who bid on this contract. This contract was bid as a time and materials contract, which is slightly different than how we authorize the vendor through state contract. So on state contract, when we ask for Rich Tree to come out, it's per job, and that job is quoted out. So it's not exactly comparable. We still always have the option, even after going out to bid, to utilize state contract if that price seemed better. For other towns that went through this bid process, the bid numbers always came in better, and that they've always utilized their bid numbers over a state contract, unless it was an emergent reason.
Having done my fair amount of time in construction, I always get a little weary about time and materials. Is there anything in the contract that states a not to exceed amount of time for, say, a 24-inch diameter tree or anything of that nature? Because, guy breaks a saw and he winds up sitting around out there. If you don't have someone standing over top of him watching and documenting that it was his fault, it's time and materials.
Right now, the contract's not written. This is just awarding the bid, and per the resolution, the contract will be written in terms acceptable to, obviously, the borough and the borough attorney. So the terms of the contract haven't been identified yet. Specifically, they responded in unit prices to a bid with all the required documents.
Do we have a time frame for writing that contract?
I mean, we usually do it pretty soon after the award, but we don't start prior to. they'd have to, the company will have a templated contract that they'll usually forward to us and we review.
Anyone else?
Yes. I was going to pull this one, but Councilman Revelinsky did it before me. And I spoke to the clerk earlier this afternoon, and I had asked, at previous meetings, we approved $125,000 for trees. And she explained to me and gave me an education on the phone. And I have to admit, I did not follow at first, and it was a little confusing. And I'm going to ask her if she would just relay to the Milltown residents how we went from 125 to 155, but that it will not exceed 155. And, you know, listen, I can't say 100%, but the way Gabrielle is going to explain it now, we're not going to be at 155. So I'm going to just let her try to explain that to the people in Milltown so that nobody gets confused like I did this afternoon.
I was told to take a breath while I explain it.
Yes,
I believe,
she
right?
did it in one breath, and I was like, whoa.
Sorry. So the reason that this contract is different and that number is higher than the allotment is because it's what's called a time and materials contract. When we went out to bid, how we asked for those numbers was in unit prices, specifically at 200 hours. That meant that we asked for what the price is for labor Monday through Friday for 200 hours. We also asked for labor on holidays, weekends, and in emergent situations for 200 hours. We asked for equipment at 200 hours. So each price that came through was for at 200 hours. So even specifically looking at labor, the intent of this bid was not to award 400 hours through that, which each of those unit proposals was $40,000. So if we're not using 200 hours on the weekend, we dropped that bid price $40,000. And it's only used by how much we're utilizing of the contract. So if we only choose to contract with this vendor for 20 hours, then we are only paying for the rate of 20 hours of labor and 20 hours of equipment used at that time. Some of the units that we asked for are equipment that wouldn't be used for every job, such as a crane. So again, anytime a crane is not used, we still have that unit price there, so if we need one, they can present it, but it's also not being utilized in every case. So the total sum of the bid is actually every one of those hours 200 times for their unit prices. So if we don't use 200 hours of those unit prices, that number is going to continue to drop down. And there will be oversight to the contracted vendor as we move forward, so we'll be clear on what they are doing and how they're doing it.
Which is important because when she says there will be oversight, our Public Works Director will be overseeing this project.
Yes.
And I have full confidence that he will be able to handle this and make sure that we're not getting ripped off, if you want to call it. I don't think Rich Tree Service would ever do that to us anyway, but he's going to be watching them with a very keen eye.
Very good. Any other questions?
When it comes to the 200 hours, a lot of times when you have a unit price bid item, anytime you exceed, I believe, the stated bid quantity or units by 10%, you have to go back out. Now, are we limited to that or no, because we're still within the threshold of the overall bid amount?
It wouldn't, it's a time and material, so it's slightly different, but all it would be is a change order, either whether increase or decrease. So if we end this contract can go on for 24 months consecutively without an extension. So if after 24 months we haven't used 200 hours, we can do a change order that says we either decrease the amount of that bid, or we can do a change order to increase it if necessary as well. Only over 20% are we required to advertise and meet other certain requirements, but it wouldn't require a new bid. It would just require a resolution for change order within certain limitations.
Anyone else?
I have one other quick question. So this will be the main vendor that's doing the trees, correct?
The only other vendor we would be able to use outside of a bidded contract would be under state contract, which again, Rich Tree is the state contracted vendor. So again, we could utilize their prices under state contract, but generally what you're getting priced under your bid is better.
No, the reason I asked is a couple meetings ago when we were talking about the tree list, we were talking about exploring shared services with North Brunswick and East Brunswick?
Shared services is different, they're not, it's a different contract, so you're allowed to, get away from a contracted vendor if you're using state contract or shared or interlocal services. So if we.
So we could have a combination of both?
Correct.
And we could also use in-house if there's a job that, that wouldn't go against their, again, that's one of the reasons we did, the time and materials really saves us because they don't have a, we're not saying that tree on Washington Avenue is your tree to cut down. We're saying we're gonna use you for so many hours, we want you for this many hours.
Have we reached out? Have we gotten any discussion with North Brunswick on?
We have
shared?
talked with North Brunswick. I need to follow up, probably not this week, but probably next week with them. I talked briefly with the administrator of East Brunswick, kind of tracked me down at the league. Actually for a CFO job, but that's another story. So we're opening the communications with them also, and other areas of shared services also.
Great, thank you.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Okay, next we will move to the report of the Department of Finance, Administration, and Planning, chaired by Council President Ron Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very short report tonight. We will be moving ahead with Mr. Barr, starting to interview department heads for the 2019 budget. That will be in the process. I have the reports in front of me of the water, sewer, and electric from the period ranging from January 1st, 2018 to 11/16/2018. And a synopsis of it very quickly. The electric, there are 23 commercial establishments behind in their payments. There are 393 local residents behind in their payments for a total of 416. Those 416 total $195,875.36 that we're still looking to collect from. Water and sewer, there's 11 commercial, 300 residential for a total of 311. Total balance owed on water and sewer to the borough is $152,901.44. The billing department is on top of this. Notices are going out to shut water, sewer, and electric off for what we can do this time of year. As you know, under winter time, it's hard to shut down electric if people need that for heat, but they are doing what they have to do. And that is my report.
Thank you.
Could you mind repeating the amount for water and sewer?
Yep. Water and sewer currently owed to the borough is $152,901.44.
Thanks.
Okay, next we'll hear from the Department of Public Safety, chaired by Councilman Nicholas Legati.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Milltown Police Monthly Report from Chief Brian Kennelly. Between October 4th, 2018, November 18th, 2018, police have answered 2,245 calls for service. The number includes, but not limited to, 911 and medical calls, traffic incidents, community outreach, walk-in reports, and public contacts. Police conducted a total of 534 motor vehicle stops, which include special traffic details including cell phones, crosswalk, and seatbelt violations. 104 radar runs were conducted in various locations during this period. Police responded to 27 motor vehicle accidents and made 34 arrests, which including shoplifting, domestic violence, DWI, theft, and warrant arrests. Milltown Police have been and continue conducting and hosting active shooter training at 133 South Main Street, so residents may continue to see increased activity. Milltown Police Department offers continued and to maintain all mandated training requirements, and we continue to train and practice the highest standards in law enforcement. Our new mobile camera system has been installed in all patrol vehicles and is close to being operational. In addition to mobile cameras, the Milltown police officers will be equipped with body-worn cameras which you will notice on the outermost garment of the police uniform. This new system was purchased to replace the old system, which was failing and could no longer be serviced. Any questions regarding the body-worn cameras can be directed to Chief Kennelly. The Milltown Police will deploy several DWI patrols during the holiday season. These extra patrols are funded and paid for by monies provided by the Drunk Driving Enforcement Fund and are at no cost to the borough. Police will continue strict enforcement of traffic laws, including speeding, cell phone use, and pedestrians in crosswalks. The Milltown Police Department encourages residents to remain vigilant by calling and reporting any suspicious activity and traffic concerns to the Milltown Police Department at 732-828-1100. The Milltown Police Department is currently accepting applications for part-time public safety telecommunicators and crossing guards. Information is available through the police department and is posted within Borough Hall. The Milltown Police Department wishes everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. The only other report I have, Mr. Mayor, is a short report from the Milltown Alliance. Last Saturday, we went out and did the Sticker Shock program, which was going to both of the local liquor stores that gave us permission to sticker cases of beer and wine coolers about the effects of underage drinking. It was coordinated by Lieutenant Johnson, and I'd just like to thank Lieutenant Johnson. I'd like to thank Barbara Piatanza, who chairs that, the Milltown Alliance. It was very well accepted, and it was a nice day to get everything stickered. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from the Department of Utilities, chaired by Councilman Richard Revelinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unscripted report tonight. Two things to highlight. Number one, we had a recent resignation within the utility department, so there will be a job opening. Folks, if you know someone who is good with their hands, smart, quick-witted, likes electricity, not afraid to get shocked, we are looking for employees, some laborers to bring up the ranks through the years. I know our Director of Utilities has also been looking for people with some sort of experience as well, not just a generic laborer. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be coming up. And secondly, we had a meeting this morning with New Jersey American Water to discuss the potential future for our water system. As many of you know, we have a lot of work ahead of us with our water system, a lot of issues that we need to address, as do most municipalities throughout the state of New Jersey. New Jersey American Water provides an opportunity to basically unload our system, cancel our debt, and perhaps even walk away with a little bit of cash in our hands and an agreement in which we can set some of the rules through RFP. So right now with the shorthanded utility department, in that we're short on personnel, short on capital, we're looking at different operation measures for 2019 so that we don't have to try and hire and train a bunch of new employees to handle our water and sewer division and try and handle everything that is going on. So those discussions will be ongoing moving forward, and hopefully we'll be putting out an RFP next year for different levels of activity or interest from the private water companies. So, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the Department of Public Works and Recycling, chaired by Councilwoman Dorian Kerber, who is not here this evening. Did she leave a report?
Yes, I gave one.
Councilman Legati, would you handle that, please?
Now I gotta take my glass. DPW report, Borough of Milltown, Monday, November 19th. Along with all regular scheduled curbside collections, DPW has the following report. 3 trees were removed on Southbrook Drive. 2 dangerous trees in Janet Court Park were removed. New safety material and railroad tires were added to Herbert Avenue Park, as were new chains on the swings. Trees were pruned in preparation for the new playground equipment dedication that took place on Saturday, November 3rd. Plywood was added to the inside walls of the new recycling building. New heaters were installed at the Cottage Avenue Firehouse Auxiliary Building. Ballast and lights were also changed at the Cottage Avenue Firehouse. New thermostats were installed in the South Main Street Firehouse. Clean Communities pickup took place on Saturday, November 3rd. Numerous volunteers attended, and it was a huge success. Leaf cleanup has begun at Borough Hall and the Senior Center and will be ongoing at these other locations. Leaf bag curbside collection has begun. Put leaf bags out on your garbage day for collection. These bags are only for leaves. The second recycling day for November has been changed from Thursday, November 22nd, Thanksgiving Day, to Saturday, November 24th. I'm going to take a second here. The second recycling day for November has been changed from November 22nd, Thanksgiving Day, to Saturday, November 24th. Garbage collection for Thanksgiving week is Thursday collection is Tuesday, and Friday collection will be Wednesday. Please check our new website for DPW updates and info. That concludes the report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, next we'll hear from the Department of Environmental, Health, and Social Services, chaired by Councilwoman Trina Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no report. The Environmental Commission will meet next Wednesday. But just to follow up on the Department of Public Works, I would like to thank the Public Works for doing such a great job in the snowstorm last week as well. I got a lot of comments of how well they did cleaning the streets that night. I know it took me, I work about 10 minutes away, and it took me an hour and 15 minutes to get home, but that was not in Milltown. That was to get onto Route 1. So thanks to the DPW for doing a great job.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll hear from the Department of Recreation, chaired by Councilman Randy Farkas.
Thank you. Along with daily operations of the Rec and SAC departments, we have the following report. SAC reminders. This is a courtesy reminder that all past due fees, that is from last school year SAC, summer SAC, and current school year SAC, must be paid in full by December 15th, or your child care will be interrupted. SAC does not have staff to bill monthly or send out constant reminders. Making sure your SAC account is current is the parent's responsibility. Please be on time with your payments. We are still accepting employment applications for adult SAC aides and a SAC site manager. If you know of someone that is looking for a part-time job and loves children, this is a great job for you. Please go online or pick up an application at Borough Hall. The hours are 5 days, approximately 3 to 4.5 hours per day. Please note that on Thursday, November 15th, 2018, when the schools canceled all after-school activities at 12 noon, SAC was remaining open. After careful thought and rechecking the weather, we decided to cancel PM after-school SAC for everyone's safety. The decision was made at 12:50 p.m. and an email was generated by the schools at 1:15 p.m. Simultaneously, the SAC office put out an email to all the parents and posted on Facebook as well. As a reminder, parents must have a plan in place for emergency situations such as this. If schools close early for an emergency or weather situation, there is no PM SAC. If there is a delayed opening, there is no AM SAC. If after-school activities are canceled by the school, the SAC office will make a decision to close PM SAC based on each situation. We will notify parents via email from the SAC office, and the school will send out a text message. Again, please be sure to review an emergency pickup plan with your child. Recreation information. Youth basketball registration is ongoing. The deadline for registration is November 30th. There will be a 5th to 8th grade players assessment on December 6th. We will update parents via email through registration forms. Please be sure to print your information clearly and neatly so there is no interruption in communication. We will be set to start in January. The Milltown Annual Christmas Tree Lighting will be held Friday, December 7th at 6 p.m. here at Borough Hall. There will be free face painting, the JK Band, light refreshments, and a visit from Santa by the Milltown Fire Department. Trips and events. There is still room for the following trips. Bryant Park Winter Village, Saturday, December 8th. Day in the city to sightsee, eat, and shop. $30 per person. The Lion King on Broadway, Sunday, January 20th. And lastly, unfortunately, the Thanksgiving Day parade trip has been canceled. Please note all trip prices include round-trip bus transportation from Milltown Borough. If you are interested, please contact the Recreation Department. The Recreation Committee will not meet in November due to the holiday. The next meeting will be on Wednesday, December 19th at 7 p.m. And the staff of the Recreation Department wishes all residents a safe and happy Thanksgiving. And that concludes the Recreation report.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the introduction of ordinances, and tonight we have one. Will the clerk please read ordinance number 18-1467 by title, please?
An ordinance fixing the salary and wages for various positions of the Borough of Milltown and providing for the manner of payment thereof.
Okay, you've heard the reading of the ordinance. What is your pleasure?
Move that this ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled council meeting, which is scheduled for December 10th, 2018 at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Second.
I have a motion by Council President Dixon, seconded by Councilman Ligotti, that the ordinance be adopted on first reading, published according to law, and that a public hearing be held at our next regularly scheduled council meeting, Monday, December 10th, 2018, 7 p.m. at Borough Hall. Is there any discussion on the motion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Ligotti?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, we have 5 ayes.
So moved. Okay, next on the agenda is old business. Is there any old business to come before the council this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of things. We're talking about the website. Again, thank you to Mr. Piatanza for his years of service and always in such a timely manner for getting all the information up. I've gotten various comments from people about things that might have been on the old site that haven't made it to the new site, and I've been keeping a list, and the clerk, Gabriella, and I are going to meet next week to go over all of that. And also, we're going to discuss, maybe we could do some sort of demo, because there are, when you talked about the Nixle alert, there is a feature called Notify Me, which we're sort of building out, but so if there's a news flash or other things that go on the website, you can sign up to get alerts in that way also. So we can discuss how we'll, if people need to see it here, we can do a quick demo, or, we'll talk about that. The second thing I was going to mention is we did have our strategic planning meeting here last week. I have the minutes, which I will get posted, and I'm going to send it out to everyone that came. We had a really nice group here for our Finance Committee and Planning meeting. And I also have, if anyone wants to take a look, we just did a flip chart, and I have all of our suggestions that you can take a look at, but I'll put that all together and send it out and make sure that it's available. So that was just the start. We encourage anyone, if you missed it, there's going to be plenty more opportunities to give your input, so we'll look forward to that. And then just one other question I had, Mr. McClellan's report reminded me, we were talking about the project across the street, and I believe, Mr. Mayor, the council was going to get a report from the Special Projects Coordinator every month, and I haven't seen any. Is that available?
Yes.
I do have it. I thought I had sent it out to the mayor and council, but apparently I must have, it's probably in my drafts. I didn't hit the send button.
Okay.
I'll get that out tomorrow.
Yeah, because I have, until I heard Mike mention it, I haven't really been aware of what's going on across the street, so that would be helpful.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other old business? Seeing none, is there any new business to come before the council this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I got a call the other day from the big man. Wears a lot of red, big white beard.
Me?
He called me, he said I'd been on the nice list, which is a pleasant surprise for me. And he hopes that everyone here is on the nice list as well for this coming year in his request to allow us to put a mailbox for him out front of Town Hall, so that specifically for Milltown residents, they could drop off some post for him. He's got a one-stop shop. He also asked me to allow us to put some Christmas decorations up, or holiday decorations, on this side of the bridge along Mill Pond Park, where it's kind of vacant right now. This would be the area behind the post office. I said I'd talk to council and get back to him. He did give me a cell phone number, but I promised only to use it on special occasions. So with that, I'd like to put it out there to council and see if everyone's all right with having a little post office box or mailbox outside of Borough Hall here for residents to drop off wish lists, whether it be for Santa or for Harry, as well as some decorations, and, you know, invite anyone that wants to put some lights up down there at Borough Park.
I don't have a problem with the mailbox. I don't know if we want anybody putting lights up.
Well, we could coordinate an event for, you know, time to go down if you wanted to put up some decorations.
I have a red phone, and I'm going to call the big guy and make sure his list is right, because I don't know about Rich being on the sign.
My only suggestion would be, if you're going to put up any kind of lights, please speak to the attorney to make sure we're not in interference of anything that could cause trouble.
Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and
There will
speak
be
with
issues.
Ralph. Okay. Anything else? Seeing none. Council comments.
Audience.
Oh, sorry, audience comments. Anyone have anything they wish to say this evening?
The mayor picks. They're fine.
Flip the coin.
Tony Nastis, not related to the Nastis brothers, all right?
Boy.
A month ago, I was here, you were not, Your Honor, but I was bringing to the council's attention 368 Main Street in Milltown, corner of West Lawrence, excuse me, West Lawrence. The site triangle is blind, and I try to explain it to the best of my knowledge. You've got to pull halfway out in the main street to see if there's oncoming traffic. Now, have any of you looked at it?
I have.
I have.
Mr. Dixon?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What can be done about it?
Other than realigning the road, the property owner in the last 3 years has been cited 11 times. And taken to court those 11 times.
Does that solve the current problem?
Excuse me?
Does that solve the current problem?
No, it does not. The fact that somebody, you know, been cited in the past years does not solve the problem again. I know they're looking at it again. If the bushes have to be cut back, if they're not in conforming with what the ordinance says, naturally, they'll be taking it again. They'll be taken to court again. The problem is that intersection is a bad intersection the way it is. Most people that I've talked to in that area say, we don't go down that street, we go down the next street. Depends where you cut through. I can't, does it the right thing to do? No, but they realize it's bad, so they don't constantly keep using it. It's like, don't touch the fire, it's hot.
Same question. What can you do to correct it?
The road itself is a county road. If you need any kind of signage, if you want anything, it has to go through the county. Main Street is a county road through town, not a municipal road.
So the town can't do anything about it?
We can't put signs up on a county road without their authorization or permission.
Well, is the town allowed to go in and rearrange the landscaping, cut it down, or do whatever it has to do?
Cannot go on private property.
And build the resident?
If it was abandoned property, yes, it's not abandoned. It's an occupied piece of property. We cannot go on someone's property and take action such as you just described.
Well, how did it happen that it was manicured at the beginning of the summer, when it was all over the sidewalk and everything else? Someone had to do it. Who did it?
They did, as far as I know.
Yeah, the bushes have grown back a bit, and it has been brought to the attention of the zoning official who has been out there and cited them again. Just so everyone understands, is when there's a property problem with grass, a fence, a house, whatever it might be, and our zoning official goes out, okay? He goes out and looks at the property. If it's not conforming, he has a discussion with them and gives them time to rectify the problem. If they don't, he returns and issues a summons. Once the summons has been issued, it's basically out of his hands. It goes to the court, they go before the municipal judge. The judge orders them to make any correction or they will pay a fine. Again, they have more time to make the correction. If they don't, they pay the fine. And now that doesn't mean that they're gonna correct the problem. And this is something that may go on and become a battle. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
So, again, I mean, I know there's been a lot of, in my past 8 years as mayor, there's been a lot of complaints about these kind of situations. Just because they go to court doesn't mean they fix it. We have to try to work things out with people, make sure it gets done. I mean, to me, it's always, let's try to work with them until we can get it rectified, because if it turns into a mess, then it's something that it goes up into the court. And unfortunately, sometimes, you know, people just are hard-headed, they don't want to fix something, and then it gets ugly and it ends up going to court, even more. So, you know, I know this is something, I had a discussion with the zoning official probably 2 weeks ago about this property again, and he told me that he's been over there. So we're trying to get this worked out to get this.
Well, has anyone from the borough contacted the county and worked with the county to get at least Main Street cut back?
I'm going to go over there myself and make a few measurements and compare it to our ordinance and see that whether it is or isn't in conformance, and see if there's something in the county records, in their ordinances or whatnot, if it's in conformance with that. I would just like to see the damn bushes pulled the heck out, to be honest with you. They're a nuisance. And it takes a lot of time and effort of our zoning official, of our police, of our court. They have to keep dealing with this situation over and over again. I know last time we had them go out, I guess it was in the summer, they went down and cut it down to about 2 feet high. Well, those type of bushes grow back just about overnight. So it's something that we continue to be on. I know it's on my radar because I do reach out to the zoning official from time to time to ask him if it's in conformance, and he has reported to me, at least during the summer, that it was okay, and in early fall it was okay. So it might have grown up now, and it might not be in conformance, so we'll have to.
Well, who do you contact on the county level to light a fire under them?
I don't know, I was going to have to reach out to our attorney to let me know who he feel would be the right person to reach out to.
Because, as you know, it is getting darker earlier, and the weather is changing, and God forbid there's an accident there, because it could be detrimental to your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So in the meantime, we just put up with it?
Well, unfortunately, once it's in the hands of the court, again, there's not a lot we can do, but we can try to keep reaching out and getting this person to do what we would like them to do. In the meantime, we will certainly look into see if that's within the law, the way that those. We've had other places in town where people's shrubs were put too close to the road, blocked off a site triangle, and through a lot of legal work, they were removed and moved back so as not to be in the way of sight. So, I mean, if that's what we're going to have to do, then that's what we'll have to do.
Well, I just hope there's not an accident there, because that blind corner, that site triangle, you got to be halfway out in the road to see what's coming around the corner at you.
I agree.
And if you think anyone's coming around that corner at 30 miles an hour, you're mistaken.
Well, I think you're being generous at 30 miles an hour.
I try to be.
Yeah, I appreciate that, yeah. No
All
problem.
right.
Thank you, Mr. Nessus.
Thank you.
One of the other things I've noticed over there too is the trees on the right-hand side when you're trying to pull out, to see the
They're hard
traffic
to-
heading
yeah.
north. they're so large that you wind up pulling out even a little bit more, and by the time you look that way and turn to the left, that car has come around the corner and is right up on you. So it is a dangerous intersection.
They're going faster than 30 miles an
Oh,
hour.
yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, sir.
So I have a question about when they do go to court. Is it the same fine every single time they go to court, or is it a sliding scale?
I'd have to look at our property maintenance ordinance. I don't have the specifics to it. But, so I don't want to speculate what ours is. A lot of times there is an enhanced penalty for a second or subsequent
Yeah,
violation.
so if you're up to 11 times, then, you know,
I don't
it should
think
be
there's-
cost prohibitive. You know, if it gets that high, then the amount should be so high that it would be in their interest to cut it down if the fine was that high. Assuming they are levied a fine every time they go to court, correct?
I would assume most municipal court judges, I wouldn't assume, I know, most municipal court judges would probably be at the maximum level after 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Right.
I would say, though, that if you look at the time frame, as Councilman Dixon stated, 11 times in 3 years, and it kind of coincides with your time frame limitations. You notice the person, you talk to him, you have to give him a few days. Then you write him up, he's got 30 days for court. Then after court, he's got another 30 to 45 days to fix the situation before the penalties are finally levied. So you figure by that point, you're looking at almost 3 months. So 3 months times 11, it's just about 3 years. So I can't say that it's people not doing their job. It seems like we are doing our job. It's just the limitations of our current ordinances or perhaps state ordinances. So it's something we have to look into.
Is it possible for the judge to rule in the town's favor and give them permission to go in and cut the vegetation?
Usually we get that when it's an abandoned home and there's been no response and it's issuance because they haven't abated the situation. But if a person abates the situation and then lets it grow again, and you go back 2 months later and it's too high, it kind of starts all over again because they did clean it up once. Even though you had to basically kick and scream to get them to do it, they did clean it up once.
So basically, this is never going to be resolved.
It's something we have to
We're
look
hoping
into.
to work to that end.
I know you are.
We're hoping to work to that end.
A lot of it's dependent on the private property owner, and I do think what Councilwoman Mayer is saying is correct.
I can't hear you.
If you hold the private property owner accountable enough times, one would think that they would not want to get hit with the high fines again, and they would maintain their property. But some people just don't act
So
in
basically,
keeping
all
with the
you
rest
can do
of
is
society.
keep working on it to see if you get it resolved. In the meantime, you're coming around that corner and you're sticking your nose out,
Yep.
nothing good could happen. Okay.
I would think that if there were an accident, that a personal injury attorney might get the records and see that that bush has not been maintained properly or the shrubbery, and might think of including the landowner in the lawsuit for failure to maintain, which may have been a cause of the
I'd
accident.
rather see it resolved before someone gets injured.
Of course, of course,
Okay.
of course.
Phil, I think you had your hand up?
Phil Zambrana, 40 Van Loo Avenue. Regarding the trees and the process, so this process kicks off now, and there's going to be some sort of an agreement that's put together to move forward to start to take out certain trees in the town?
It's a time and materials contract, so the contract will be written for time and materials pursuant to the bid, and then per that contract, there'd be a point person who notifies the vendor of the jobs and projects that need to be completed.
And that point person, from what I understand, is going to be Ralph from, yes, okay, so there'll be no one else that'll be involved from the town except for Ralph.
Ralph's responsible.
And Ralph's going to be using the most updated list out there, whatever that list may be?
Ralph has the most updated list that he's going to go off of, but Ralph is going to use his judgment on what trees are dangerous that go to the top of the list. Ralph will use his judgment on what trees need to follow after that. And Ralph, in the conversations I've had, he will try to keep in mind the people who have been on that list the longest.
Good.
Once he gets down to getting the dangerous trees out of the way, once he factors in utility issues, then he will go to the the list and try to abide by who's been on the longest. Ralph is in a good place. He knows what he's doing.
So let's say that the contract doesn't get, or the process doesn't start until the beginning of the year, right? Let's just say. What's the time frame? Because I thought I heard Gabrielle say that you could extend it up to 2 years. Like, we're not looking to stretch this out for 2 years, are we?
Well, the bid contract is we're allowed to maintain this contract as a time and materials contract with the vendor for up to 24 months per store. That's the contract law.
Right.
We're allowed to have the contract for 24 months.
Right.
After that, we can add extensions to it if necessary. Again, without the list prioritized at this point, I can't give any judgment on when they would go out, and it's also, again, tree removals is weather permitting. So once we have a timeline and contract in place, I'm sure we'll have some type of scheduling.
So we're looking pretty much at the spring at this point, because you don't want to get out there in January or February when the weather's bad, unless, obviously it calls for it.
I think we have the best public works department.
Yep, I agree.
And I think they're going to do everything that they can possibly do without anything falling to the wayside to handle this tree situation for the Milltown residents. I know that the director has a priority set on it, but he's not going to let something fall to the wayside, so a time frame is very hard to really nail down, but he's very, very aware of the situation.
I appreciate that. I just don't, this money has sat there as part of the PSE&G settlement for a year. I hate for this to sit there for another year and nothing happen.
And I wouldn't say blanket that nothing is gonna happen in January. It will be weather.
Yeah, sure.
Weather.
Sure. But you don't want to send out folks out there in unsafe conditions either.
Absolutely,
to take care of
and
something.
not only the folks, but also residents.
Yes.
If it's a snowstorm, we're not gonna put equipment out on the roads for somebody to put in a dangerous situation. But, it's been known, we have had a couple of nice days in January,
Yes.
so we'll try to work with the weather and try to get them started as soon as possible.
So then my next question is about, I thought I heard some improvements that were made to the Cottage Avenue Firehouse.
Yes.
Minimum improvements.
How much are we talking about in terms of dollars?
Oh, it wasn't a lot of money.
Okay.
No, I think the MAC, we had discussed this, and what we're doing is doing the repairs that are necessary for operations.
Good.
So I think, I don't even think we spent $1,000.
Okay, good.
But they needed heat.
Things. They needed things, okay.
So there was a couple of issues that they needed to do, and the fire department, fire chief is on board. I've talked with Ralph, and we all agree, we're only gonna do what is necessary for obvious reasons.
Okay. Then I understand about this unfortunate incident that happened with the window at the American Legion. So I'm kind of confused because, so you're saying that a borough employee was trimming grass in front of the American Legion?
No,
And that a rock flew across and hit the window, or?
There was a parking lot across the street also.
Somebody threw a rock across the street from, I'm confused.
Well, I know I've weed whacked and hit my house from the street, which is about 75 feet away. I mean, it can shoot a rock a good distance, a weed whacker.
So what part of the street was the borough employee trimming? What part of that is borough property?
The borough property is what's all across the street on the street side of the sidewalk, on the opposite side of the fence. That fence is in the parking lot. Also,
I always understood that was American Legion property, not borough property.
it's borough property down there. The borough plants the trees there. The borough maintains those trees. Borough
Okay.
does all that.
Okay.
And also, just so you know, we attempted, and I'm speaking now for the American Legion, we attempted to put it into our insurance company, and they did not cover it because the employee came forward. Says,
Right,
hey,
right, right.
I didn't know what happened.
Right.
Came down here, we said, put it into your JIF or whatever, which they said they would. And Ralph is the one that notified the company they use, whoever that, I don't even know the name of the company.
Okay.
I think A to Z or something.
Easy Auto Glass.
Well, it does make a difference, but that's the one that Ralph said to go to.
So then the last thing I have a question about, is there any Ford Avenue update that anyone can share? Because I know at these meetings, Council President Dixon, you've always given an update on the latest Ford Avenue things, but we don't have one tonight.
The only thing I can say, and I have to refer to our attorney, there's been litigation going on that we're not as council involved, and we've been updated on some of it.
Just as a brief update, we had a conference before Superior Court Judge approximately 3 weeks ago now, he set timelines for the borough to complete a number of hallmark events dealing with affordable housing, because we have to, as part of this, the whole matter, we have to incorporate affordable housing rules and regulations that we're required to implement for the third round. We have to also pass a number of ordinances and resolutions that pertain to the redevelopment itself. The developer's plan had been struck down by the court, so we have to go through several, we have to take several remedial measures to get that back up to speed. So we've had regular meetings every 2 weeks with, I have redevelopment council, planner, engineer, and we're participating, working towards getting things lined up that have to occur. We have a deadline of April 15th, 2019 to comply with the court order. So a number of moving parts are working very diligently to try to put those all together.
So will there be any sort of like, I don't know, something in the spring or something at the beginning of the year where the residents may be brought up to speed on what's going on at the site? At the strategic planning meeting that Councilwoman Mayer gave last week, which Councilman Mervolinsky was at, he actually mentioned a bunch of these things, and I know a lot of the folks in the audience were like, had no idea what was going on.
Well, as far as a strategic meeting, I'll leave that to the discretion of the governing body. I'm telling you what's going on with respect to, from the legal end, planning and engineering end, in terms of coming up with various ordinances and resolutions that have to get put into place. So if you watch the agenda between now and April, you'll see a number of items that are put on both on the council's agenda as well as the planning board's agenda. And we have to kind of synchronize a number of those events as well, where we introduce an ordinance, refer it to the planning board for a review. They have to get a response, if at all, back to us within 35 days, and then the council then can act on the ordinance. So there's going to be, as I say, quite a few moving parts, some of which I don't understand, but they do deal with the subjects of the Borough plan. They deal with the subject of the complying with the court on the redevelopment plan, and then also finally the affordable housing. So 3 different things that are all going on at the same time to try to move the ball forward. And the court set stringent timelines because the court wants to see this happening.
And so there has been a final determination on the total number of units that are going to be allowed to go up there?
Yeah, there has.
And what is that number?
350.
350 units, okay. Okay. So I guess on every agenda going forward, there should be some sort of highlight or report about Ford Avenue as to what's going on, just so that the residents are aware, because a fair number of people who showed up at that meeting, a meeting that wasn't televised, by the way, had a lot of questions. So it's probably something that would be a good idea to put on the agenda moving forward.
I don't know about a report, and I don't know that it will be on every...
Update, confirmation of some kind.
Every council meeting's agenda. It's going to be as they become available. We're right now waiting for certain ordinances to get passed through the planning board, certain ordinances that are coming from redevelopment council, and there's kind of things that they're working with, getting comments from the developer. So a number of those things, as they transpire, will end up showing up on our agenda.
I have to ask the question again because Council President Dixon said that at every meeting he would provide a Ford Avenue update. And since there wasn't one given tonight, that's why I asked.
Fair enough.
Thanks.
Is there a is the Ford Avenue redevelopment meeting open to the public?
Yes. Yep, it's open to the public. It is only held, though, when there are actual updates. I would think that moving forward, we are going to have them, and that is because, there is legal fees associated with that. We have an attorney and et cetera. They are typically the second Tuesday of the month. So if you have a council meeting Monday night, it's typically the following night is a Ford Avenue Redevelopment Agency meeting, 7 o'clock down here at Borough Hall. So that handles more of the legal aspects of the court cases, what's occurring, and then what else has to be done, as well as a redevelopment agreement.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Lee Weisenberger, 99 JFK Drive. Mike, I'm just wondering about the water tower.
Gonna get painted this year? It's gonna cost us more money next year, or how's the contract read?
No, it's scheduled to be started in February of 2019.
Okay.
Okay? Can't paint in the wintertime, it's very difficult to cool weather and all that, so. It's scheduled for February 2000.
Okay, very good. Another question, Chestnut Street, the water main breaks that were over there, the two of them, going back a little bit now?
You know, gosh, we're 2 in a row, about a day apart.
Right, they're right.
I had the first one, took the crew a while to find the break and make the repair, and then I want to say it was the very next day, there was another one. Same main, just a little bit further down the road. Old section of town, in that area, we actually go from a 6-inch main down to a 4-inch main. The folks over there have dealt with low pressure for a long, long time. And I think even if you go up Highland from that location, you go from an 8-inch main down to a 4-inch. So there's a lot of
Just curious
pressure
though, condition
differentials.
of that pipe.
Old.
Yeah, I mean,
Very old.
You know, we can expect more bad things in that zone probably?
It depends. One of the reasons, or one of the things that we look at it as something of a normal occurrence, and no break is a normal occurrence, but the timing with relation to hydrant flushing. Typically, after you flush, you will get a break or two here and there throughout the system, just simply because you have so much water moving so fast, and then when you shut that hydrant off, even if you shut it off slow, you still get something called water hammer, which is, you might hear it in the pipes in your house when you quick turn off the faucet, you hear a little chunk in the piping in the wall. That's your water hammer, and that can be disruptive to the systems.
I'm just curious, like I said, that pipe, what was the condition inside the pipe?
You know, I wasn't on site.
They replaced something, was that pipe clogged with crap?
I know one was a radial crack, and the other was axial. So one was along the seam of the pipe, and the other one was around.
Did they take it out, or they just leave it?
No, you take out that section, you put in a new section.
I'm just curious, with all our water problems, anybody look to see what was inside the pipe?
I could ask our utility department and find out if, what the condition of that pipe was. But most likely, it's just because it was old and the walls have thinned out over the years.
Okay, appreciate it.
Anyone else? Sir?
Since the last time I appeared here.
You have to state your name and address again, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. Tony Nastis, North Brunswick. Since the last time I appeared here, you said there were some violation notices issued previously. Has any violation notice been issued since my last appearance?
For the same property?
For the same property, yeah, 368 Main Street.
I think there was.
I believe it was too.
I believe there was.
There was?
I'll check tomorrow morning.
Should I come in and sign one also?
If you want to sign out a complaint, you certainly may.
I'll wait to hear from you. If you already did it, I'll just appear in court.
Well, I'll certainly be checking. I'll be in contact with our zoning official in the morning, see what the status is over there, and we'll take it from there.
All right, and if necessary, I will come in and sign a complaint, and then someone from the council, I'm sure, will be there with me, and I'll contact the county and have that representative also on a complaint with me.
Yeah, I'm going to get the ball rolling tomorrow morning about who to contact, et cetera, to see what can be done there.
All right, thank you very much.
You got it, sir.
Actually, I was looking through my history here. It looks like he was cited the Tuesday prior to the last council meeting. That would have put it at a citation on October 23rd, and today being the 19th. I'm not sure the time frame limitations with court hearings and things. Typically, it's around 30 days, so he may not have been cited after that, but I just want to let you know he was cited on the 23rd of October.
We're almost on the 23rd of, okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just out of curiosity, how do you find that out?
I called our zoning officer.
Oh, I thought you had like a calendar or something.
No, I've actually requested that with our new website, perhaps, and we have to look at the legal ramifications of this, but posting properties that have been cited so that residents can see actions being taken on a regular basis. I know it's something we discussed last year, or actually, I think it was with Mr. Buck prior to that, and he had some concerns of posting things, making a resident look bad if the court hadn't ruled yet that, there was a violation, in fact. But it's a good thing for the residents to see that if you notice a property with concerns. I know there was a young lady here, a very, very lovely, nice young lady here last meeting, happened to be my mother. She complained about the bamboo, received a notification from the neighboring tenant saying, go ahead and cut it down yourself. So we know he's not going to do anything about it, but he was also cited earlier in the month. So unfortunately, this is, we don't always have good neighbors that want to take care of their properties and look out for us, but, the residents should know that we are staying on top of things.
Would we be able to find out if this property owner actually paid any fines?
That would be in the court records, right?
Yeah, if you were to reach out to the municipal court clerk, you could learn of the disposition.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close audience comments. Council comments.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have 3.
Fire away.
All right. First off, I just wanted to wish everyone up on council, in the audience, and at home to have a very, very happy Thanksgiving this year. In watching the weather, it is going to be chilly.
Yep. Coldest ever.
So please be careful, but enjoy your holiday. Taking advantage of being a council person out here, we happen to have a council meeting on my daughter's birthday, so I'd like to say happy birthday to my daughter Marissa.
Today?
Tonight, yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
It's my birthday, too.
Is that right?
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And I'd like to say happy birthday to the mayor.
We didn't know that.
That was next on the list.
I wouldn't rather be doing anything else than be with you folks.
Well, it's nice that
Gabrielle, go get the cake.
he spent his birthday with us. My last thing is I'd like to let Public Works and the Utility Department know that on the night of that we had our snow last week, they did a great job. Unlike Councilman Mayer's hour trip home, I had a 6-hour trip home.
That's awful.
And once I got into Milltown, it was such a nice feeling to be able to drive on nice roads and to just go, ah. So I wanted to say thank you to them as well. And that was it.
Anyone else?
No. Yes, Mr. Mayor, just real quick.
Sure.
Oh, well. I just wanted to thank Joe Piatanza for his service to the residents of the Borough of Milltown. And he did a great job for a lot of years, so thank you, Joe.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll close council comments, mayor's comments. Nick already covered Happy Thanksgiving. Randy already covered. Thanks again to Joe. Joe, thank you so much for all you've done for us in Milltown. I really do appreciate it. And of course, Barbara, with all your years on the Board of Ed. We couldn't have this wonderful town without you guys, so again, thank you. I'd like to congratulate Councilman Farkas and Legati on their recent re-election to office. Congratulations, guys.
Thank
you,
We'll
Mr.
see
Mayor.
you back in here next year. And a final thank you, again, just to echo what Nick was saying, our DPW department. It's funny, I'm out doing my job all around in New Jersey, and whether you see other towns or you listen on the radio, it was bedlam. Everywhere in the state of New Jersey and in New York, except for Milltown. Thanks really to our guys who really have it on the ball here in town. And as Nick said, once you got back into town, it was like, it didn't even look like it snowed on the roads. It was completely perfectly cleared. And thanks also to the residents who do act and get their vehicles off the road. So that's all I got. Happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank you.
That's tremendous.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you, Mayor.
Thank you. And with that, before we adjourn, I think
Nick has something to say.
Councilman Legati has something he'd like to share with us this
Yes, I
evening.
do.
Please do.
I move that this council enter into executive session to be approved by council, and that council will enter executive session immediately following the vacation of council chambers by the public. Council reserves the right to take action upon returning to public session.
You've heard the reading of this resolution. What is your pleasure?
Move to this resolution. Oh, second. Sorry.
Oh, no, because he made the motion.
Oh, that's right.
He made the motion.
That's a long motion.
It is.
I have a motion by Councilman Legati, seconded by Councilwoman Mayer, that we go into executive session. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council President Dixon?
Aye.
Councilman Farkas?
Aye.
Councilwoman Kerber is absent. Councilman Legati?
Aye.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Aye.
Councilman Revelinsky?
No.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, we have 4 ayes and 1 no and 1 abstention.
So moved. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take about 5 minutes before we start our...